Lawyers for Omar Khadr are in an Edmonton court this hour seeking changes to his bail conditions. Khadr was just 15 years old when he was captured by the United States and held for years at Guantanamo Bay. Khadr pleaded guilty to killing a U.S. medic in Afghanistan, but is currently appealing that decision. Sarah Galashan is watching for developments on this case and joins me now. So Sarah, take us through what Khadr wants.
Well, Andrew, basically he wants a Canadian passport and he wants permission to be able to speak privately with his sister. You'll remember, of course, that one of the last times that Omar Khadr made big headlines in Canada was 2017, and that is when he was released on bail in Edmonton and received a $10.5 million payment from the Canadian government for the part that Canadian security officials played in abuses that he suffered while he was a teenager imprisoned in the U.S. military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now, he pleaded guilty back then, which ultimately led to his transfer to Canada. That led to his release, but he has since said that his memory is very cloudy about what actually happened in 2002 in Afghanistan as to whether or not he actually did throw the grenade that ultimately led to the death of the U.S. medic, Sergeant Christopher Spear, and frankly, severely injured Omar Khadr himself. But as part of his current bail conditions, as he's right now fighting or appealing the war crime that he did initially confess to, he's on bail and he has to adhere to the conditions that include not being able to travel outside the province of Alberta without permission and not being able to speak to his family members unless it is a supervised situation. So specifically what he's asking the court in Edmonton for today, if you want to put up the board, he wants a Canadian passport so that he can travel to Saudi Arabia. He wants to perform the Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to Mecca, a mandatory religious duty for Muslims to complete at least once in their life. He also wants to be able to speak to his sister, Zainab, as I say, by phone or Skype, and he wants to be able to do that privately. He has met with her since his release in 2017, but it was a supervised visit at that time. If you want to put up the next board here, in an affidavit that's attached to the application that's being presented into court today, Omar Khadr says of the current conditions that he's under right now, that they amount to indefinite and potentially endless detention. So we don't know specifically what the lawyers are going to argue today on Omar Khadr's behalf, but presumably the fact that he is appealing the war crime confession and the fact that that is such a lengthy process right now, Andrew, that they're going to maybe argue that they feel that it's unfair that these conditions remain in place for what seems to be maybe an endless duration.
So what's been the reaction so far to this request?
Well, whenever you hear the name Omar Khadr, certainly it drums up controversy, a lot of mixed feelings. There are those who believe that this is someone, he's a war criminal. He comes from a family of al-Qaeda supporters. And earlier today, Conservative leader Andrew Scheer made his position known once again publicly. Here's what he had to say.
This is someone who killed a U.S. Army medic. This is someone who participated in acts who fought with terrorist groups, and his family is well known for celebrating not just acts of terrorism, but terrorist groups themselves. So I don't think it's a good idea that someone that has this track record has more access to members of his family who continue to speak out, celebrating acts of terrorism, glorifying acts of violence. I think that's just despicable.
But there are others who argue that Omar Khadr was 15 years old in 2002 when this happened, that he was tortured in Guantanamo Bay, that any confession that came from that needs to be reevaluated and reassessed. The bail hearing, as I say, gets underway this hour. We know the lawyers are right now in court, and we expect that Omar Khadr is going to say something publicly afterward. And of course, Andrew, we will bring that to you as soon as we get that tape.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.